Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panelist currently. He saved me from it being a Greenstock Talks, which I was actually considering just rolling with it and taking Q&A. But welcome in, Spartan Grown.
Thank you, Jack. And hello, everybody. I am Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word with no spaces. Or you could shoot me an email, spartangrown@gmail.com, and I can help you with all of your growing and lighting questions.
Hopefully, we actually get some lighting questions or growing questions because the last few times we've done Q&A, the reason I've done like topic shows or we had a guest on recently was more so on the front of the last couple times we've done some Q&As, it's been a little bit more quiet in the chat. So I don't even care if it's personal life questions or if it's garden questions or if it's business questions or technology, whatever you're interested in currently. It could be about video games or hunting or fighting. I don't care. Ask questions and we'd be happy to answer them. Ideally, it's about growing cannabis and the cannabis community or cannabis law. Something I would just say I saw recently that I found interesting was oh man, I should probably pull up. I shared it with the group, so I'm going to give the individual credit. This content creator is a cannabis forward content creator, and they've actually posted lots of really good stuff. They're called Cannaba Chem, Cannabichem, Cannabichem. And the post that I shared with the group was talking about how they had abstained from cannabis for a while pregnant, and they'd started pumping their breast milk after not smoking anything to like get a baseline. And then they smoked a joint, like a half-gram joint. And then they tested like 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, and maybe 24 hours after they consumed a joint of cannabis. And the interesting thing I found, at least from watching this, was she reported that there was no detectable levels of THC in the breast milk, which I think to be a good sign. I'm actually not too worried about it personally. I think there's endocannabinoid deficiency syndromes and related disorders and disabilities out there that we're going to find out more and more about as time and research goes on with Schedule 3 and others like Israel and Canada and other places that are researching cannabis more openly for the medical value of it. We're going to continue to find maybe it's not so harmful and actually has lots of benefits. But I found that breast milk testing kind of be a little bit of an interesting video. But there's a lot of I mentioned the Sanjay Gupta using cannabis during pregnancy little special that I watched a few weeks back, and it's something more and more in commonplace now because cannabis is becoming legal or medically legal and available so many different places. So I'm curious, Spartan, if you were able to watch that and if you had any thoughts or opinions about it.
I have not, I have not watched it. I don't know, I don't know how THC could find its way into breast milk. Like, would it be? I have so many questions. Would it be THC? It'd be decarbed if you smoked a joint. How about if you smoked for a month? Is there still content? And instead of just one joint after sustaining. My other questions would be is how is it that THC stays, does it stay in that form the whole way? Does it stay as in such a form that it would be able to even affect somebody else? I mean, obviously in her results showed none at all or undetectable, which might be low
That's what
amounts.
she said. There might be some, and they tested it as a, interestingly enough, like a organic edible or something like a homemade edible is how they described it, which I thought was kind of a funny touch on that experiment. But I agree with you. It'd be interesting to see if more long term they used, or like if they used a bunch and eventually found like at what level does it cross the barrier, or is it crossing something different like CBD or CBN or some other cannabinoid entirely down the chain or up the chain? And so, really interesting research there. And I'm curious if anybody in the chat has any comments or questions about that or anything else.
There's one comment in chat here from Buckaroo Bandit 138. He says, "Howdy, howdy. What are your general thoughts on using CMH lights, 3200K? I had considered LED, but I had a hard time switching. Spartan, let's hear an elevator pitch. Thanks." Well, my first elevator pitch would be, you're not going to get the 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 biggest one you're going to hear for LEDs is efficiency, right? And where you lose efficiency with the CMH and the metal halides and the HPS is its heat. It's throwing IR. It's throwing heat off onto your plants. And I think it's way more efficient to use a heater to throw heat into your room than to run it through a light. And I don't think I know it is. And the same goes with light. Like if you get an LED light over your CMH, you're going to get more light output per watt of energy that you're pulling out of the wall. And You're going to see differences as far as HVAC because you're not throwing so much heat into the room as you were before. Um, there's going to be a little bit of energy savings there as well. Um, and then the big thing now with the modern LEDs is most, I'm not even going to say just with, Grandmaster LEDs. Of course, that's the one I would recommend, but most modern ones have lines with spectrum tuning in some way. Like you're able to change the spectrum to make it more ideal for that stage of plant growth or whatever you're trying to do. You can crop steer with light. You can hit them with blue light to keep them more short and less stretchy, or you can hit them with red light to get them to stretch. There's so many different strategies you can do with the ability to take control of your light spectrum that you can't do with a fixed light. And then another thing that I find really important that a lot of people don't talk about is that if you're using HPS or CMH and you dim it, like it's mostly home growers, you don't really see that in commercial grows. They usually just hang them high to the ceiling and let them rip. But in a home grow, if you're dimming them at all, you're changing the spectrum. It's not the same spectrum as the spectrum that is advertised. So unless you have a spectrometer in there or some way to measure that, you will have no way of knowing what that change is like until you see the results in your plants, I suppose. So and then as they, you have to change the bulbs, which is another pain in the butt. It's not hard when you're just doing one or two, I suppose. But it's the degradation that's an issue. A lot of growers will let them go for a year, two
Hidden
years.
expense. I mean, the
Yeah.
one grower I talked to who was pretty honest about it said if they changed them every 6 months, they noticed that there was an improvement, but for their like cost average, they ended up doing every year because it wasn't enough of a hit. But they knew, and they're like, man, I really did like when I could afford to buy those fresh ones every 6 months when things were good in the market, and they were able to make that happen. And so I want to take a second to welcome in Tao, and then we'll get back to Buckaroo Bandit 138's question about the CMH lighting. But Tao, welcome.
Hello, Jack, Spartan, everyone in chat. I'm the American one on the YouTube and the American one underscore with underscore Keens on the IG. I'm glad I made it. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. And yeah, I'm glad I'm here.
Cheers to that. And shout out to the new mom in my group of plants, which is the Death Star. I got two of them rooted now. So I've got a mom for myself, and I'll have at least one, ideally, if it stays nice and healthy, to get going to the Open Source Genetics Alliance for whoever's the first on the list over there. And I'm going to make sure that my own mother, it's got really nice, healthy roots. And funny enough, it's from the cloner. I just kept trying. And second or third wave, finally got one or two that have rooted really strong. I got a bunch more GG4s coming down the line, and a bunch of people are going to get contacted. So keep your eye out on your emails, because if you don't get back to me within a week, you're going to lose your spot. You're going to get bumped down the list. So I want to make sure that everybody gets their chance. But yeah, you got to get back to those emails and make sure that we're getting the shipments reimbursed so I can get them to you as fast as possible. I haven't figured out, I'm going to in the near future, maybe months, maybe weeks, how to adjust the shipment for the people that are requesting slips, because I have had people request unrooted clones or just cuts. And so I'm going to try and accommodate those people as well. So if you want to be one of those people, you can re-email me and say, hey, I want to be on the slips list, but that I don't want to lose your spot in line, but I could just change it out for the rooted thing. So you'll keep your spot in line, but I can adjust the shipment methods, and it might bring the cost down a bit in terms of weight and size of the package to get it there to you. But to bring Tao up to speed on Buckaroo Bandit 138's question, they said, howdy, howdy. What are your general thoughts on using CMH lights? 3200 Kelvin, which is just the spectrum, had considered LED, but have had a hard time switching. Spartan, let's hear an elevator pitch. Thanks. And Spartan gave his elevator pitch, but I'm curious if Tao has any thoughts before I weigh in on that one.
I only used CMH as the veg light for a while. I have heard many people extol its benefits for like one high pressure sodium and one um, metal halide of some sort in the flower area, which probably really did good. But I heard most of what Spartan said, and I think LED is now the way to go. Really, I mean, um, especially if you like the HPS, you could turn the new GML to a HPS spectrum. So you could probably get close to what you were experiencing with a regular HPS light with like less cost. So, but yeah, I'm not really one to speak on the CMH is how good they are. Now I only use them for veg. So
Well, I think it's important distinction to make that he said, I'm pretty sure he said ceramic metal halides. So that's a pretty good
Yeah,
one to flower under. I mean,
it's in
that
between.
gives you,
okay,
it's like a
yeah.
full
So yeah,
spectrum. It's like,
that
it's pretty close to the,
Philips developed it and they were calling it a light emitting ceramic, LEC was what they patented it, but it's
yeah.
just a ceramic metal halide. And a ceramic
I,
metal halide is like a white light compared to a metal halide, which is a blue light, or a HPS, which is like a red light. You'll see them if you take a photo under them. The HPSs have a red hue or an orange, like when Noah
are
comes
yeah.
on. You'll see that orangish hue, but it's the redder spectrum that's showing through and causing that orange, like my shirt. And then the metal halides kind of have like a white blue. It's a little bit less noticeable, but you can definitely tell. And the plants don't look pure green. They can almost have like a purple hinge to them, even under veg. So they kind of look a little off. It almost reminds me of the LEDs when they first started. They had Blurple, which was red, and blue LEDs, which was very difficult to diagnose any plant health issues because the color wasn't white. So once CMH came around, it was like the first white light that was actually really good, in my opinion, because although I started with HPS and so did many others, it was a thing from the 70s all the way till now, and it still works. Metal halide still works, and they can still grow plants very well. There's a lot of heat and some inefficiencies. The newer ones are actually fairly close in efficiency to some of the lower end LEDs, admittedly. That's why they're still run, and it's a cost thing. But I think actions speak louder than words. And you can look at my own personal grow. And I went from having a CMH to an LED. And I've stuck with the LED. I haven't gone back. And I might even still, I think I still do have my ceramic metal halide in a box, like bagged up, because I planned to when I got a bigger space to like expand my grow and then never ended up, well, I kind of did expand my grow, but I didn't end up using that light. I would just add more LEDs in there. So that should kind of tell you because I did full cycles under the ceramic metal halide. And while it was probably overclocked for my space, um, I will say the plants can be extremely healthy. If you have the right distance, the right environment, the plants will look like they are literally made out of leather. Like they're so thick. I do think that potentially there's something special about that spectrum. Maybe it's part of the infrared, maybe it's part of the UV. Some of them, from what I understand, going through glass takes a lot of UV out. So whether it's going through HPS or a ceramic metal halide or just the glass, like in a hooded, vented system, which many or some of them are. Mine was open, but from what I understand, you're taking a ton of the UV out of it just by the fact that the bulb is glass. And so I don't know if that was the factor, but the plants seemed really healthy and happy. I think in flower, because I was overclocked, I had like 300 watts when I needed like 180, 200 for my space. My plants struggled and foxtailed a little bit, but I did have some runs where I kept the distance high enough and I had the airflow moving enough that I grew some fucking killer shit in there with that stuff. And to this day, like if I had to go back, if they're like, Jack, you can't use LEDs, hypothetical world, you have to use some other lighting technology, I would choose a ceramic metal halide over an HPS or a metal halide or a combination, which people did. They called it checkerboard pattern. They'd go HPS, metal halide, HPS, metal halide. I think folks rightfully felt metal halide brought on great terpene expressions, great profiles, but it yielded less, where the HPS brought on bigger yields, but it might not have the same terpene expression. There's still a breeder out there to this day who claims metal halide has the best terpene expression, so he keeps at least like one light of that for some of their strains, but they're kind of a shyster and renamer, and I won't give them too much credit for it. But it just some of the stuff that they've said has come true in terms of the actual how the plant works and operates, and I've seen it in my own garden in a variety of ways. So I do want to give some credit to the fact that maybe there is something special about these spectrums, whether it's a plasma or a ceramic metal halide or a metal halide or an HPS. But again, actions speak louder than words. I'm actually using LED across my grow. And since I switched, I found it was easier to bring out the purples, which I was chasing in certain plants that are supposed to go purple, like Velvet Punch. I was hoping to get more purple, and I did. Even like the Jack Spike Punch, which was one of the last plants I grew under the metal halide or CMH, um, that had pink hues to the resin, which was actually very beautiful. And I think that if I would have grown it under the same LED setup that I have right now, it would have come out much more purple, just because easier to control the environment. And I was kind of goosing it a bit by pumping 440 nanometer blue, which is known to increase terpene expression as well as bring out anthocyanin production. And so, as soon as I switched over and I modified my light a little bit by adding some rings around it that had more red and more blue to try and get the best possible potential out of the LED. Because when LEDs first started coming on the scene outside of Whirlpool, there was cobs and then there was the bars. So I actually I feel like sort of wrongfully went for the cob because everything else has gone to bars since then. It's more even distribution. I was kind of under like I really liked my LEC. I liked the one strong point of light that would come down really hard and make the plants kind of get that intense light. So I like there was a guy called like the um, pirate something. He had like these cannon, like giant cob lights that were
Oh yeah, it's awesome. What was his name?
oh
Oh,
man,
out of
um,
Colorado.
something. It had like a pirate themed name, but
Yes. I forget now. Damn. He was a good
they
dude.
went out of business though. I'm pretty sure, and it was
Black Sail.
Black Sail. There
Black
you go.
Sail, yes. That's
Black
what it
Sail
was.
LEDs. And so there was custom people that would like Rapid LED would had like cob pucks that you could like buy and put on a heat sink yourself. I bought mine from Timber Grow Lights, which was a local one in San Diego, and I've been happy with that light. It's been running for years. It's yielded extremely well. Because my grow tent was fairly small, it didn't matter as much. Two cobs versus like a couple bars. It was just better than my overclocked light emitting ceramic. So long story short, I guess that I love my light emitting ceramic and I think that it can be great. Brandon Rust, when I first met him in San Diego, his whole grow was all LEC or CMH, that ceramic metal halide bulb style with that nice white light. He flowered and vegged under it, and his plants always looked beautiful. And they tested insanely high for terps. He had like an 11 or 12% terpene, Black Lime Reserve or something. I think it was like 17% THC, 12% terpenes or something insane. And still some of the best buds that I've seen grown around here. And it's under that bulb. So I'm a believer in it. But at the same time, if I was going to go buy a light now today, I'd be picking up an LED. If you already have ceramic metal halide and you want to run them for a couple years or a couple more grows until you can justify the cost of upgrading or switching to an LED, then I think that is fine. But in terms of going out and buying one new or even like used off of somebody in the secondhand market, a lot of reasons to avoid that, from pests to molds to uh, malfunctioning equipment to old bulbs that you don't know how much run time is on them. You can't really trust if somebody said, I'd only use them for one run, but really they use them for 2 years.
But you can never know. Sometimes you get some good. I've heard some people tell me some crazy deals they've gotten because there's a lot you have to remember. There's always people out there that are chasing the next best thing. So there's people that will buy whatever the newest, best, greatest thing is, and when the next thing comes out, that last thing they bought 4 months ago, they're selling for half off or something like that on marketplace because they want to bankroll the next thing. So you can get lucky and find some good stuff too.
There used to be like a thing, I think it was called like Tony's used grow supply or something like that. And it was like just some guy who bought and sold used grow equipment. And it was a bunch of that like lightly used stuff. And nothing against that, especially for the cheap home grower out there to get in, lower barrier of entry, as long as it's not, it's tested and clean and certifiably working. Because some stuff is not, like even LEDs, like um, going into right now, I've seen like spider farmers and stuff where like a whole strip will go out, like just black out. The rest of the light might still work. Maybe two or three of the a wire got shorted or something, and a couple of the strings of lights go out. And I think they're based out of China, so customer service is going to be a little bit slower turnaround potentially. Maybe if you got it on a website locally or something like that, you could have some sort of a refund and things like that. But then your plants don't know. They don't care about the refunds and the turnaround times. They just want to have a reliable light, and it's nice to go with a brand that you've seen other people have success with for years and years. Even then, there's still lemon every now and again, but having somebody that's like more local to you that has a little bit of reassurance is a good thing because your light is the heartbeat of the grow, really. I mean, it's what is powering most of it. The nutrients and stuff are like supplementary. The environment is a huge part, but that light, without it, the plant literally cannot survive or grow.
That's why that is another big tip that I don't know if I've said before on air, but when you do an upgrade, especially for the light, I keep the old thing that I'm replacing because if that light goes out, it gives me a backup. It's not perfect, but it'll work until I can get light back on canopy. So if you already have a backup, then you can throw away the one you've been holding on to. But yeah, I tend to hold on to the thing I'm replacing if I have room to like put it somewhere and store it. Especially when it comes to lights. I've got more lights than I need for sure, but I won't be without light.
I mean, I've got my backup 315, like I said, and I'm in a 3x3 flower right now. So at this point, if something ever happened to my LED, I'm going to keep that one in reserve, and it's not really taking up too much space in a nice sealed up area. And so I'm happy to hang on to it. Not like it needs to go anywhere. It's been hanging out for a couple of years at this point. I can't even remember when I got that timber grow light cob, but it's been rocking for years. I should probably at this point upgrade after I get my first couple crops in at the new spot. I haven't flowered yet. I've been just taking cuts and cuts and cuts, getting as many of these GG4s and Death Stars rooted as possible to try and get them out to as many people as possible. But it's going to get to the point where I'm going to have so many cuts off the top that the bottoms are just going to be bare. So I'm going to probably flip them here very soon. Now that I've got the Death Star, that was the major sticking point was I wanted to have a Death Star backed up before I flipped a flower, and now I'm just evening out the canopy and I'm gonna let them rip. So we'll have a probably slow down for a little bit on the Open Source Genetics Alliance. But that being said, anybody who's gotten them in the meantime is encouraged to and feel free to continue to share them around and let people know, hey, I got it, and I'm happy to continue from my end to because it's not just the all Jack operation. That's why it's called the Open Source Genetics Alliance, not the Jack Greenstock Genetics Alliance. We want everybody involved and no barrier to entry. You just got to email, ask, and you'll be, as long as you're in the US currently, working to expand it internationally eventually. But that's all we really want or request. But I'm curious if you guys have seen any other questions so far. It seems mostly like people just cheersing it up, saying what up, everybody. Hello, hello. So cheers to all the great people in the chat. What up, Doe Grow? Common guest. Maybe you'll jump in at the second half when we open up the panel for the open panel hour two. So guys, stick around if you want to see some cool gardens. I know he maybe Raptor Grow, maybe Art Man. Who knows? We got a lot of great people with us currently. Supreme Grape, lots of great people. So cheers to all of you guys. Caveman, he's another one who jumps in a lot. He's got Caveman Seeds. Shout out to Caveman Seeds. He's a breeder who puts together a lot of really cool, what I would call like old school or like some of my favorite generation stuff, like from AK-47s to Afghans and different like cushy type stuff, like from the 90s, 2000s, where I feel like a lot of the best stuff is coming from and the backbones of the modern genetics today. Collective Marijuana says still got a 10-year-old HPS, but upgraded and got two Medic Grow Fold 8 LEDs, which I think are fantastic lights. Dr. MJ reviewed those a while back, and they're a bar style light. I think they have 8 bars, and I think they cover like a 4x4 or 5x5 very uniformly.
Yeah, I mean, the bar light was like a natural progression on how to push the hardware to be more efficient. It was, okay, we've gotten to where we, almost to the wall on efficiency hardware wise. So now you had to rethink the design, like, okay, now what we can do is slam these lights closer, but actually physically spread out these points of light more evenly. So we can slam them really close to the canopy and then dim them down and but still get the same light intensity. So like a lot of people think that, if I have a, whatever, 800 or 1,000 watt HPS running in my grow and I go in there and throw 1,000 watt LED in there, but it's more efficient, so I can run it at, we'll say, 800 watts and be just as strong as the 1,000 watt. But no, which is really the thing is really leverage the design of those bar lights, and now you can take that light and instead of having it 3 feet above your canopy, you can have it 6 to 12 inches above your canopy, and then dim to the correct intensity. You might only be pulling like 400 watts. It's like when people see, judge a light by its wattage, that's not really the way to do it.
It's actually really, unfortunately, we used to under the HPS way. It was like, oh, if you're in this size, you get 600. If you're in this size, you get 1,000.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's that carryover mentally that we think it has to be a watt to watt thing. And a lot of times, the thousand's not even pulling 1,000. It might be 1,250, depending on how you're running it and the light that you're running. So the double endeds are different than the single endeds. And I think what you're talking about with the LEDs being so spread out, the nice thing is like mine, the Cobs, they do build heat. They have heat sinks off the top. Like the ones that I got look like a Sonic the Hedgehog back. It's just like giant metal prongs all over the top, right off of where the most heat is generated in that kind of puck. It's like a silver dollar kind of size. Just tons and tons of LEDs packed into one little circle. And instead of generating all that heat in one hotspot, if you spread it out over a bar, that same, let's say there's 100 or 1,000 little LED diodes in that cob, then if you spread that over several different bars versus 2 or 3 different little circles this big, then obviously it's going to be less demand for the heat sinks. And on top of that, the main thing that also unlearning from a grower from the HPS, CMH, metal halide, and you know, the HID world going into LEDs was, oh, you can actually grow way closer to the lights, especially if you're dimming them, and the bar style especially, because with like a cob, you might want to keep it, I don't know, 10 to 12 inches away. With an HPS, it might be like 16 to 18 inches away or something like that. But with these bars, if you run them at the certain intensities, like you've seen Dog Doctor or other people, I've seen plants with a cola growing in between the bars, and it's completely fine. There's not even a bleach spot on it, and they're still filling in and getting nice yields, and it allows the grower a lot more flexibility and adaptability. And when you do dial it in, and you have everything X amount of inches from the canopy at whatever intensity that you're going for, you can crank. Like you look at like a Brandon Rust or um, Spartan's Grill over at home or at the Trichome Forge. It's just cola after cola after cola of thick, juicy, beautiful buds. So that's what we're all aiming for, ideally. And the technology is, I think, when there's competition in the market, everybody kind of tries to you either drive to get better or you get moved out. Like in the case of Black Sail, they were really committed to the Cobb and these big giant cannons because that was their whole thing. They're like a big pirate ship. They've got these cannon type lights. They want to be the HPS replacer for the people switching from HPS to LED. And I thought that was a great concept initially. However, they're and not just them, lots of different cob companies that didn't adapt to bars. Like Timber Grow Lights doesn't make any cobs now. They only do, I think they're called High Grove LED now, but they only do bar style lights. And there's a reason for that because that's what people demanded. And that when there's lots of people kind of attacking an issue, I think the best solution comes to the surface, especially when there's not like patents and copyrights or whatever. I think Fluence, to their credit, was one of the earliest to really come out with that form factor of just really nice high end white with some boost of red LEDs. I think they had like Osram and whatever the Samsung LMs were at the time. And those were adopted by, I think, some of the more forward thinking earlier commercial cannabis operations. And when I first started seeing photos of that, I was like, wow, it's really transitioned from like an underground cottage market to sort of megalith of a thing that is an international behemoth where it's going to be, Germany, Switzerland, everywhere, Canada, US, Africa, China, like maybe China eventually, not right now, but it's just,
China might be the last one it shows up at. It'll be
I
great
hope
if it
that's not the
happens.
case, but I think you might be
That,
right.
that'd be wonderful to happen, though. Yes, they have
They
such
can
an
surprise
old
us though.
tradition of it being medicinal there, and it's like so disappointing.
I know, I know. We also do kind of, pre 1930s. We're also kind of leading the like international countries in our ban is what kind of pushed a lot of other countries to go against it. So I
Yeah,
won't sit here and pretend like we are guilt-free, but we
yeah,
can always
but
continue to move forward and do better. And I
you
think that
see
our
the
people have
error
been
of your
educated.
ways.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm optimistic that we'll continue to, even if we take two steps forward and one step back, make better legislation for the people and also allow businesses to operate. We do need commercial operations of all sizes, large and small. Look at any industry, whether it's beer, wine, tobacco, um, just anything that people consume that's at scale and enjoy. There's the craft person, and then there's also the giant mega corporations. And so I don't think we should just like blindly hate all large cannabis companies because I do get a lot of that sentiment whenever I'm going through comments and social medias that and there's reasons to dislike them, especially from being on the craft side and differentiating what makes us different or better. And I've talked about that in past shows, like what actually makes craft better. How does it stand apart from commercial? But I think over time, ideally, the commercial markets will close that gap somewhat so that the craft people have to keep on innovating and coming up with really cool ways to like cure it or just unique strains that they're not going to grow in the commercial space because it might take 78 days to do the GMO right? But even then, they're doing it in the commercial market to some extent because I'm seeing all kinds of GMO concentrate that's actually fire as fuck. So watch your asses, folks. Don't think these commercial folks can't also pump out some fire if you're in this space trying to make money off of it. If you're just doing it for the love and the passion and the medicine, that's a completely separate operation and keep chasing after that dream and living it because that's the realest one of them all is providing yourself, friends, family, and local community some fire. And if you get a little extra reimbursement on the side, a little kick down, maybe side gig style, then no issue there. But I think people are finding it harder and harder to be like a sole income anymore as more and more markets open up commercially from states to countries. Whether import is legal or not, it's being shipped all over the world, right? So we see California bags showing up in Europe, and we see different stuff come from it's going every direction. So I think it's important just to try and lock down and secure a little setup that you enjoy, something where you can find and strain hunt for flavors that you're interested in. Because a lot of the times you might be on what the current hype is in the market, but sometimes like it'll shift way away from your flavors. I knew a guy who only liked OG and gas, and when all the candies came around, I showed up to his place when I was working delivery, and he would literally deny. He would have the cash ready, and he's like, "Man, this is like candy. I don't want it. I want gas. I want OG." Or nothing else. Like, and it would be like an OG hybrid, but there'd be some cookie in there. There'd be something else in there. And he would just flat out send my ass home with the bag in hand. And to some extent, I respect it because I've done that when the strain was incorrect. Like I ordered like a Jack Herrera, and then it was like an XJ13 or something showed up. I was like, no, like it's not what I ordered. And it's like yeah, there's Jack in it. It's Jack-esque, Jack adjacent, but it's not Jack. And even like J1, it's a cross of Jack, and I really enjoy it, but it's not Jack. If I'm looking for J1, I enjoy J1. But if I'm looking for Jack, I want Jack, you know? And so I think that during market shifts, you might be surprised because your favorite strain might be really popular for a while. Like GG4 was huge for a while, but in certain markets, it's kind of fallen off. I know Michigan, that's not so much the case, but it's rare that you see it in the California market these days. I saw like a clone group selling it here maybe a year or two back when I was doing some work with another person on the panel, but the since then I looked for it again when they reached back out to me to like try and get more clones, and I was like, they don't carry it anymore. Like this is what's available now. And so it's important that if you love something to hang on to it and make sure you get it rooted. That's why I've been so patiently waiting to flip to flower because I didn't want to flip and not have a copy of the Death Star because who knows if I'll be able to rebuy it again. Maybe it's available from Tiki, maybe it's not. But I'd rather, if I can, keep it in house and save myself the time, money, and shipping.
I'm glad that you're doing the right thing though. You find something that you love, you give it to as many people. It's like when you get that bud and it's some of the best bud you've had, you want to share it with your friends. Do the same thing with your cuts because that's just a bank for you. Maybe they won't keep them, you know what I mean? But hopefully, if you lose your cut, you can call on all those friends that you handed that cut to, and one of them is gonna have it to get it back to you, hopefully.
Ideally, or it's just out there for the world to enjoy, like Kyle Cushman with the strawberry cough. I don't think he's asking people for it back because if he ever does need it, he's giving it to hundreds or thousands of people, and it's just out there now. And it's like nobody's saying like, "Oh, the strawberry cough doesn't exist," right? There's some strains that are like lost, like, "Oh, maybe the cat piss is gone, or maybe X, Y, or Z strain is gone," but no one's saying that about strawberry cough for the most part. It might not be super common, but there's people out there that have it. And I know sour diesel is another one that commonly is claimed to be gone, but I had some a few years back from this one group in Northern California. I think it was called like Sonoma Valley Sungrown or something. And man, it was that real fucking sour I grew up getting from the New York area, shipped over to Ohio area in the 2000s. That was just rock solid high, get you stoned for a super long time, smelled great, tasted more like the OGs and chems, which I think it's a derivative of if you look into the lineages and claims and things like that. But a lot of people claimed it was gone, and then you started seeing bags of it show up, and I'm like, that looks just like what I remember. And like, granted, looks a lot of buds kind of look the same. Like, I think GMO kind of looks like sour diesel if you just look at the bud structure. They're kind of foxtaily, and they have like these long buds that are kind of skinnier and frosty as hell, but it's not the densest bud by any means. But yeah, I think there are people for sure with the sour out there still, and it's great to try and continue to be one of the people to, especially since Josie, when he was alive, came on this show and like told us the whole shebang. Like, here's the genetics, here's how I got it, here's who I got it from, and here's why I share it with people, because he's just like, I think it's fire, and I think the world kind of deserves to have it. And so I'm gonna keep putting it out there. And thankfully, that thing roots like crazy, man. I've rooted 3 rounds or 4 rounds of that while it took 1 round of the Death Star to root. So it's
I
just
found that GG4 has always been an easy rooter. It's like that one was never a problem, and which is almost a rare thing among the coveted clones, among the clones that people are. It seems
Chem
like
and
most
OG are
people.
not that way, right? They're
Yeah,
fickle,
it
they're
seems to be.
older.
Yeah, they're harder to. But yeah, GG4 always seems to just want to keep on living, so that's cool.
I think it's partially because one of the things that works against it later in flower, like it has so many side branches. Maybe there's a bunch of auxins and hormones or whatever, just making it shoot a bunch of shoots everywhere. And because of that, when it goes to root, it's just got those hormones kind of flowing through it. But later on, it gets if you don't thin it out, it can start to snap under its own weight. because there's just like so many buds, and they will get so fat that even at like a little pinky or smaller, like a toothpick sized branch, will start trying to throw out a big chonker and it'll snap over on itself. Or even like the big branches that have a supportive thing, it's just the bud gets so fat and like water heavy, they just like
Yeah.
plop over and you're just like, whoa, like I did not realize that thing was going down. So
That can
that's one
happen
to
with under
scrub.
canopy, like under canopy lighting, adding under canopy lighting in. That can happen too if you're not on it. Like I was told, like the first time I used under canopy lighting to like, I said, well, how do I change my pruning? Because I'm putting these things in there, obviously. So, and they're like, oh, you don't even have to. Just put them in there. You don't even got to prune. You'll be good. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, whatever. So I put them in there, and yet it's true. It's true. It's not required. The plants still grow. The problem is any branch that isn't like, you know, at least as big around as your pinky, it has to go because it will do exactly what you're saying, like the GG4 does, is it'll just start building these big buds on a tiny little branch that just will snap or it'll fall down and won't be able to support it, and it'll just be all this floppy nightmare. Um, so yeah, when you're talking about that, that reminded me that that's a good tip for under canopy lighting, especially because most people don't add them until flower. At the earliest, and then and beyond that, it's usually not until a little bit later in flower when the plants are large enough to get them underneath there and really be in the right spot. So when you do get them in there, just make sure that when you do your prune, your whatever you call it, your underskirting or your lollipopping or whatever your special term is, you can do a lot less, but you're still taking off the small branches because of the fact that those buds are going to kind of blow up and it's going to be a more trouble than it's worth, kind of. I guess, I mean, if you want to if time's not the issue, then go ahead and leave them.
You could throw them in the hash. That's what I did with
Yeah,
my Blue
yeah,
Dream,
yeah.
the one harvest. It was such a kind of all over the place plant that like maybe a third or two-thirds of it went to hash, and I just kept like the top best buds, and it made a shit ton of bubble hash that run. But yeah, it's there's options, and I think your under canopy lighting suggestion is a good one that kind of corresponds with the same concept for the GG4. The time thing is also a major factor because some of those under canopy buds look like while they're alive on the plant, especially if it's some of your first few grows and you haven't seen this phenomenon, it might look like a golf ball. But then when it's dried, it's like, a peanut M&M, right? So you're doing a lot of work in trimming and drying and hanging or herbs nowing or curadoring or whatever system you use to dry and cure your buds just to come out with a bud that's like maybe not going to be a full bowl, let alone a joint, like it's you bust it up and it's just one of those tiny little popcorn buds and they usually taste fine, but it's I think the shoulder and top buds are obviously the ones that are most desired and tend to test the best. And that's what people are after because you get that punch and rush that you're kind of expecting with a bong toke or even just a few puffs off a joint. You should start to feel it versus sometimes with the lowers, it you might smoke maybe one, two, or three joints. And for some people, that's actually fine. Like the older crowd or introductory crowd who doesn't want major rush of cannabinoids in every single puff. They just want a little gentle ride up. So, like the light beer of cannabis, so to speak. And the funny thing is, my wife's worked with a company who did like a low THC launch, and it was wildly unpopular, even among the senior crowd and elderly crowd and veterans that might have PTSD that were afraid of higher THC. It just never no one ever, like, we never found a single. It's such a terrible marketing to say like low THC. It was like it literally got scrapped so quickly because it was just the worst. And they've been extremely successful in other markets, like in this cannabis space and flower and beverages and infused products, etc. But that was just like a huge swing and a miss. And it's okay to going back to earlier, admit that, you made a mistake and then adjust and adapt and move on. We don't have to be stuck with something because we bought an HPS light the first time we went to the grocery store. It doesn't mean you have to keep changing that bulb every 6 months or a year. That's a big pain in the butt. And that's a hidden cost, really, on top of you're running 1,000 watts versus what you'd probably be realistically replacing with like 700 to 800 watts that you're going to be running at like 500 to 600 watts most of the time, maybe pushing it to that 800 if you're totally dialed in with CO2, perfect nutrition, everything. But then look at like Brandon Russ, who has all that going on, and he's still running his stuff at lower wattages and getting insane good performance. So it's almost like a min-maxing of how little light can you run and still get good yields and good plants. Because with LEDs, that's actually kind of an option. You can run dimmed or less wattage and still like I've hit over 2 grams a watt with a very small LED in a very small space, just kind of playing around because my flower was taking up a spot. And I was like, you know what? I feel like flowering these plants. I'm going to flower them in my veg. And I just flowered under like 65 watts and got over 130 grams of bud. It was like 2.2 plus. And I was just like, damn, like you can make a lot happen in a really small space. So never underestimate what these even tiny LED setups can do.
And that's really where they excel is they bring that form factor down. It's like how much space in my grow do I dedicate to my light, including the space I have to put under my light before I can have plants. And LEDs have made it so that you can really shrink that space, which was always something that we were always fighting. I can remember 18 inches forever. 18 inches from the bottom of the light to the top of the canopy is as high as you can possibly go before you started getting like tips burning and everything else. And to be able to just shrink that down and give me more grow space is just, I mean, I don't have to tell that. Most growers are going to say that's, oh, I get more space. Yeah, hell yeah, give me that. Very few say that well, I've got plenty of space to grow in. I haven't heard that very often.
And without much repercussion, it's not like you're sacrificing yield or quality. Like when I first saw, there was a huge, like anything, when there's a shift in a community, a lot of the old school growers pushed back. They're like, LEDs don't yield, or they only yield the top buds and the bottom buds are smaller or whatever. And there was, they say the HPS penetrates better or X, Y, and Z. It has more UV or it has more this or that. And many, still make these types of claims. And it's interesting because I've now been on both sides of the fence and I can see that the LED, I feel like, can do everything the HPS can do and more, but the HPS can't do everything the LED can do. And that's just more from a heat and efficiencies perspective. You can dial in your spectrum on an LED to essentially match exactly what you're getting out of an HPS. And I've seen growers do it, and we reviewed a side by side, and there was some small, it was a homegrown science experiment. So there's some little subtleties, like they had the blue light was like a little higher from the plants, than the red light was like a little closer to the plants. So those were a little bit denser, and so it wasn't a perfect experiment, but it showed enough that the morphology of the plants under the HPS mimic LED spectrum was much more like an HPS than any other LED spectrum that they had run in the past. And this person was an LED producer and tried lots and lots of different spectrums. So I found that to be interesting, and I found plants do react differently to different like Spartan was talking about with the spectrum tuning, if I were to not turn on the reds and the blues, my plants wouldn't perform to the same level as if they get that extra red and blue kick because it's literally triggering something in the plant's genome to say, oh, I can produce blue when I'm hit by a certain type of blue, or produce purple or anthocyanins or whatever to react to this type of light stimulus. And so it's just like we're manipulating what has been found by scientists within the plant. And so spectrum tuning is sort of a natural, I feel like, going back to what Spartan was saying with crop steering, just part of that process. Instead of using like a nutrient to make your plant taller, like a lot of people used to use GA3, gibberellic acid, to get stretchy plants. Well, you can give your plant tons of far red and make it stretch without investing in using a chemical or a hormone that may have longer term ramifications than, oh, I can just turn my far reds into blues or turn that far red down and adjust how my plant's growing versus, having to flush it out of the plant or see how much is in the plant and kind of get a fresh reset by maybe taking a new clone or pollinating it or however you want to reset without the hormones interacting.
And where I hold the most hope really is like we're still cutting edge, guys. We're not at the end of the road yet. They just knocked down, schedule one, so that's gonna for sure. I'm not even gonna say hopefully, for sure, bring way more research into this plant, and there's gonna be a lot more research coming out, and the dollars behind light and cannabis growth. Like I want the same amount of white papers and experiments that I can get for corn for cannabis because we got that pretty figured out to the point where they're GMO and building their own fucking corn. So I want to know, what's good for my plants and what's cool is if you give me the control on the light, I don't have to buy a new light when they the next great study says, oh, if we found if you know, whatever, if the plant's exposed to this nanometer at this time of its life, you'll see this good result. I'll be able to hit that with a light that's able to do that, to be able to, you know, isolate some sort of spectrum like blue heavy, red heavy, or like you said for red, 660 nanometer. That's usually what's used for red. And then for you know, once you get into the far red, you're looking at 740 nanometer, somewhere around there. Or you know, blues is the other direction, down in the 400s. So if you had a light that could kind of steer in that direction, and then we have the science catching up and informing us on different cues for the plant or even light stressors, um, to me, just as a practical person, it's like that's when I'm making a big purchase, it's just that's kind of future proofing it. Now you can't have a proprietary spectrum anymore, like the HPS. You know, the spectrum in the HPS for Hortilux was slightly different than the spectrum in the HPS for, you know, Nanolux or whatever the hell it was. And so now in the LED game with spectrum tuning, you can't claim some fucking proprietary spectrum because you have the capability of hitting them, you know, by doing those adjustments rather than, you know, saying I'm using this proprietary amount of gas and nobody else can use it to make this color in this bulb.
Spectrum King tried. They, for a while, had a patented LED spectrum that was supposed to be more efficient, and they charged like 3 to 4 times the amount. And to go to Stragglethorn, said 10 to 12 years ago, LED didn't yield or grow good buds. So it was warranted saying such things. And I do agree. When it was blurples and even the early initial cobs and stuff that maybe they didn't have the efficiencies. They might not have been using the Samsung LM301B or H or C or whatever the heck diode was the most efficient at the time. And in the right numbers with the right drivers, the people that were super nerdy about it were testing all this stuff. So like it was like to me, they had like this one is 2.12 versus this one's 2.15 or 2.18, and they had like all the efficiencies. And now it's like up three, probably closer to four now in the efficiencies. But it's just a matter of they figured it out. These manufacturers figured it out. It was a debate for a while, and even after the debate was kind of figured out by Fluence or whatever, um, pre-spectrum tuning, they, I guess, wanted to be able to supply part of the market, like Black Sail was, catering to HPS growers who wouldn't take a bar style LED, even if it was shown on a white paper to be more uniform and have better yields and better efficiencies. They're just they're more going with like gut feeling and vibes and past experience, which is maybe a detriment at times to people because it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So they've gotten this far successfully with a certain method. And a lot of, like Noah said, a lot of his grower friends in his area that switched to LED very after like shut down. So maybe the additional cost of like bringing those LEDs in push them over the place where like their investment in their grow is no longer manageable for them. Where like someone like Noah who already invested in his HPSs and already has the air conditioning and all the different stuff set up, a bulb to him is way cheaper than someone going out and buying another 700-watt light or replacing 4,000-watt hoods with four 700 LED lights. And so I could see how, whether it was 4, 6, 10, 20, 100, when grows would switch from HPS to LED, especially if they were not aware that they needed to run the room a hell of a lot hotter than they're used to running it under HPS, which is something a lot of people don't talk about. And I'm glad that I remembered to bring that up in HPS rooms, I was happy when it was like 70 to 75, maybe. I'm like, yes, it's nice and cool in here. The plants are going to be happy because that infrared heat blasting off that HPS was just cooking those plants all day. And to keep them in the proper leaf surface temperature range, which you can scan with a little laser thermometer, like I got right here, beep. And you got this little laser and it tells you, oh, my laptop is 85, 87 degrees. And so you point this at your plant and it'll tell you what the leaf surface temperature is, not what that thermometer says, whether it's a digital one or an analog one. They're going to give you different readings. And depending on the position, if you have it right above your light in the grow, right beneath your light, right at the base of your grow, right on the wall, I have like 10 or 15 different measuring things, but I still always go back to trusting this, even if it's a little cheap one. They're close enough to give you an idea. In that 70 to 75-degree room, it might say 82, which is what you're looking for, in my opinion, on that leaf surface. And in an LED room, to get that, It might need to be 82 degrees, actually. So it might be the exact same leaf surface temperature and room temperature. It might be 78 degrees and read 82 if your plant's right underneath that. Like I have cobs and they do get a little bit hotter, even though it's not as bad as an HPS. They get a little bit, the ones that are directly under it get a little bit warmer. And depending on airflow and things like that, it's important to consider the leaf surface temperature. So I'm glad that I remembered to bring that up, but it's just a lot of people, I think that was part of what led to their unsuccessful growing when they switched from HPS going to LED. They didn't account for that. So they ran the rooms cold. And I've seen this with growers I've worked with in the past at least a dozen times. They were running their LED rooms at 75 or lower because of what they were used to or just their environment. It was cold. So then they didn't have a heater or whatever. I had them bring it up to 78 to 82 without fail a dozen plus times. I've seen yellow plants turn green with no other change. No nutrition change, no watering change, literally just warmed the room up. And so I've been a believer ever since that you really have to keep, ideally, the plants in that proper range as much as you can. And that'll help to accommodate for even improper nutrition, even improper soil mixes. But ideally, you get those things dialed in and then you get the environment dialed in as well under whatever lighting system.
Yeah, it was like that that old diagram with the barrel, right? You're just pushing each slide of that barrel up when you do upgrades, and then it affects all the other. Now there's another slide that's the lowest. You know, you fix the lowest one. Now you got to find the next lowest to fix it. Once they all get up, you get a big increase with your yield.
It's that Liebig's law of minimums, I think is what that's called.
Liebig's, that's what it was.
And it's like a wine barrel, and the slats are those little pieces of wood that are held together with that big kind of metal ring, and that bottom hoop is like the first layer usually, and like to get even to that second metal ring, if it would be having all the nitrogen, all the calcium, potassium, and CO2 levels and environment levels. Like if your environment is way out of whack, you could have the most perfect, you're watching that guy on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter or wherever you're watching grow content, his plants are green, lush, turning purple when they're blooming or turning red and beautiful fading. He's using XYZ nutrient company. And you're like, wait, I bought the XYZ nutrient company and my plants look like shit. Well, that Liebig's law of minimums is not coming down to that nutrient. It's because your environment is probably dog shit. If your plants are at a 100-degree room, like it doesn't matter how good that nutrient solution is, they're going to be struggling and dying. If you get it down from 100 to 90, they're going to be way better off. 90 to 80, they're going to be way better off. They can survive. I've seen plants survive over 100, especially outdoor plants. Short periods of time, especially if they have lots of water available to cool them down in the root zone, it's possible. But is it ideal? Absolutely freaking not, right? So the Liebig's law of minimums, it does include environment and stuff like that, not just NPK ratios.
Yeah, and I want to also just, and it won't take me long, just cover like a general strategy for spectrum tuning with lights because I don't think that's talked about hardly at all. And it's wild to me as I guess, an old guy now that I'll get questions from people about, hey, what spectrum should I use when? I'm like, whoa, you spent like they didn't get like the cheap one. They got like the most expensive light you can get spectrum tuning, all bells and whistles, everything spectrum tuning. And then they're like, yo, how do I use spectrum tuning? I'm like, dude, that's like buying a Lambo, you know what I mean? Or buying something crazy, just not knowing how to even operate it. So it's not bad, I guess, but it's like to me in my head, I'm just automatically like, man, I couldn't spend money like that and then not know what the hell I'm spending my money on, like not know how to run it other than but the general strategy is just like, and I say general because of obviously all these cultivars are going to react a little differently to light, but at least I can tell you, generally speaking, most cultivars react to red light in a stretch response, and or in flower it also brings flower bulking. Blue light tends to keep your plants shorter and more stout, brings internode spacing tighter in, and but also really good in flowering cycle to push cannabinoids, higher cannabinoids, or we could just say quality, I guess, flower quality. So. the general strategy is like if you're in, here's some options. If you're in veg, you're gonna want a full spectrum light, but you're gonna want it a little bit skewed towards the blue side because that's gonna build your base nice and stout and build your node spacings nice, and you don't have stretchy plants and weak branches. But if you're really early on in veg, we'll say early veg, rooted cutting, uh, you might want to keep a nice full spectrum, but instead of skewing blue, you might want to skew not red, 660 red, but far red, because not far red has been shown for sure to trigger shade avoidance if you get to like over 10% of your spectrum in far red. But it also has been shown to be very helpful in stimulating some rooting. So you can mix a little bit in really early on if you're having something to try to give you a little extra push to get those plants to shoot out roots early on and fill those pots. Um, but I would just use a pretty full spectrum with a little bit of blue for most of veg. Once you get into flower and you make that switch, I would ask yourself, okay, are these plants too big and I need to suppress the stretch or the bolt, or are these plants too small and I need to encourage a little bit of stretch or encourage a bit of bolt? Because you could do two different things with light then, right? So you could pick, okay, I want to do more or less reds depending on what you want the plant to do. Or you could say, no, these are right on the money, and then just go, okay, I'm just going to go full spectrum light for the first few weeks and let it just keep rocking and rolling. Once the plant stops growing vertically through that bolt, then you can start going red heavy. You can't go red heavy at the beginning because you might get way too excessive stretching. The why you want to bring reds in is because for one, it's more efficient light. So for every watt that you're pulling from the wall, you're getting more light out, which is going to give you more yield. Um, and it's like almost like the nutrient version of a bloom booster, right? So it encourages flower growth. So you can do that after stretch is over, where you don't have to worry about stretch anymore because it's done. So it's just building flowers. So the strategy is then bring in the heavy reds then, and then for the last week or two, this is a contention between me and Thomas, the owner of Grandmaster LEDs. He likes to gradually make changes like 3 weeks before harvest, like maybe bring in 50% blues, and then the second, 2 weeks from harvest, get, to 75% blues, and then last week go 100% blues. I like to just say, screw it, last week just hit it with blues. Because in my eyes, I'm giving it more of a less time. Like in 1 week, I'm not going to see, even if I cause a herm, it's not going to be seeded, right? It's going to be a few flowers that I might have to pick out. But if I try to alter it with a lot of blues, which isn't really super normal for a flowering plant at the end of the cycle, I'm worried about messing with hormones and stuff. So I just hit it at the end the last week with blues. So, you know, blue full spectrum and veg. I like to do that same blue full spectrum the first few weeks of flower because I'm in a situation where I'm usually trying to keep them shorter. And then bring the reds in for bulking of flower, and then last week bring the blues back to push cannabinoids where you've already built your bulk. You're not going to lose a lot of bulk or anything by not having a ton of red at the end.
I think that's a
That's
good.
the easy kind of way to do it. But then you can change and do your own thing from there. But that's just at least a strategy to follow to give you an idea of that's some easy spectrum tuning that I can do to where, you can do that with regular traditional lights that only have one spectrum. Use whatever lights you have now. And then where I said add red, just get a red booster light that's just like 660 nanometer red. Or where I said blue, get a 450 nanometer, or where I said blue, a 450 nanometer for 40 nanometer blue to push that spectrum to what you already have. At least it'll push the spectrum in the right direction.
Or like in some cases, like you might already have the proper spectrum. Like you might have bought a veg light. In the case of like my HLG 65, it is 4,000 Kelvin, which is 800 Kelvin above that 3,200 Kelvin, which we talked about earlier, CMH, which is kind of a warm white. 4,000 Kelvin would be considered a cool white. I'd say 5,000 Kelvin and 6,500 Kelvin are also occasionally implemented if you want even squattier plants, which are just bluer and bluer. So if you've ever bought to like a Home Depot light that's like a cool versus a warm. The warm ones are just redder. The cool ones are, bluer. But the 6500 Kelvin will make your plants a lot squattier. I think 4000 Kelvin is a nice balance where it grows almost like I'd say 3500 is like kind of right in the middle of this Kelvin spectrum, where it kind of goes from blue to red, and the lower numbers become more red, the higher numbers become more blue. And that 3500 to my eye looks very much just like paper white, just pure white, middle of the road white. And the further you push down from 3500, if you go to 3000, it starts to look red. If you look at 2500, it's even redder. 2000, ultra red. And you'll never even see 2000 Kelvin stuff really out there unless it's a specialized type light. And it is important, I will say, to avoid upgrade itis because I've seen this now, not just in the cannabis hobby, but cars from people racing, trying to like, there's a guy in like a really fancy 911 getting passed up by a Miata because the Miata driver like knows what they're doing and they've like self-tuned and are just a better driver. And in coffee, there's been like barista challenges where the guy with like $15,000 worth of equipment with no experience goes up against the barista with like $200 of equipment but 30 years of experience, and the person who has all the experience and knowledge ends up making a high quality thing or performing at a high level versus the person who is brand new. Even if you buy the best of the best of the best, it's not a replacement for the experience or the skill. So it does potentially help. It gives you more, in the case of racing, like horsepower and torque and better weight balance ratios and things like that. But in the case of growing, um, I'm not trying to poke fun at him, even though he took some pretty serious jabs at me in the past and he's never apologized, dang it. But I won't hold it against him. This is not against him personally, not a personal attack. I'm not the kind of person. Maybe I am on the side, but GML has posted, and to his credit, posted many more grows than I have for much longer than I have. And many times they don't end up going well, whether it was under HPS or HLG lights or under his own GML lights. And so that just goes again back to the point of even if you get the best of the best lights, if you don't know about spectrum tuning, you're not going to know how to implement it. So I'm glad Spartan gave a rundown on that because you could even if you use the spectrum tuning, going back to like the temperature, if you don't dial your environment in because you spent all your money on the fanciest spectrum tuning light, but no ventilation and no fans. So now your grow's running way too hot, even with an LED. LEDs produce 1,000 watts is 1,000 watts. So if you put 1,000 watts of LED or 1,000 watts of HPS in a sealed room with no ventilation, they both produce, I think it's 1,300 BTU, British thermal units or something like that. Maybe it's 3,400. There's some number. It's an exact number per 1,000 watts, right? The way the LED gets around that is it pushes the heat off the opposite direction for the most part. It's drifting off the top of the light versus being pumped down on to the plant, which my grow is shown with the kind of thermal imaging. I think it's called like forward looking infrared or something, where you can temperature scan a room and it shows like red where it's hot, green, yellow, blues, and all the other things like that. The way that the light comes off HID bulbs is just so much more direct down onto the plant. Where with the LEDs, it's the actual thing itself gets hot. Like you're not going to want to touch LED after it's been running a 12-hour cycle. It'll be cooler to the touch than an HPS, but you still don't want to touch the top of it or the bottom of it, in my opinion. Some of them will run cooler if you're not running them at 100%. But anyway, just going to say that even if you have the GML light, if you don't know how to spectrum tune, if you aren't taking care of the plants otherwise, going back to that Liebig's law of minimums, if you're using some janky dank recipe that you found on a forum from 2007 that has uncomposted chicken manure in there or something, you're going to have some hot ass, nasty ass soil and your plant's not going to do well no matter what light you're under. So get that shit dialed in before you focus too much on the lighting. Because I've seen people with very like Home Depot lighting, like under the cabinet lighting, little whatever lighting that they could find. People that stole lights from street lights that are growing fucking fire because they dialed everything in. They knew, although it's not ideal, they had to keep it 18 inches from that thing. It's like, yeah, it sucked. And yeah, we had less room for the plant, but we overcame, right? For years and years and years, and people still do. And so it's just about making the best of what you've got. If you've got an HID bulb, we're not trying to poke fun or talk shit. It's just we've gone to the grass isn't always greener on the other side. But in this case, if you've been on both sides and you see that the grass truly is greener somewhere else, it's important to give your honest opinion and feedback and reviews of all of them. And I've experienced every level of the spectrum of this light, from metal halide to HPS to ceramic metal halide. I still have a fondness. It was less than a decade ago that I used the ceramic metal halide. It's sitting, stored. If I, like I said, if I had to use it right now, I would. But I'm very satisfied with my LEDs. So, we definitely talked lots of lighting, and it is 5:05. I missed the fact that we went over the hour mark. I'm gonna go ahead and copy that link, and I'm gonna pass it to Tao just for thoughts, updates. You can talk about whatever. I know you always have a hot take. So, Tao, I'm gonna give the mic to you for a couple minutes while I get the link sent out to the chat.
All right, I'll try and fill in some blanks here. Yeah, as everybody knows, I moved and I've been struggling, man. When you change environment, it should happen. So I'm learning that. That was because I was in the same spot, or at least I was on Long Island. It's like, and I didn't realize how like the humidity doesn't fluctuate very much compared to where I am now. I mean, it is drastic here, and it's really screwing with me. But um, yeah, and as far as when you were talking about getting people jumping into a Lamborghini before they know how to drive, I would actually I was getting my motorcycle fixed at a dealership, and they're like, "Yeah, this guy bought a brand new I don't know if it was a Jigsaw, I forget what it was, but it was like a sport bike, thousand cc sport bike, and they like, yo, maybe you should take a couple lessons before you get on this thing." He's like, "No, I got it." He got on it, and as he was leaving the dealership, he popped a wheelie and crashed into a telephone pole and hurt himself and the bike. So yeah, there definitely is something to that. Working your way, but you could always, like Spawn was saying, once you get that light, then you have options at least. And when they learn new stuff, and you can learn yourself, but still, yeah, that's totally a weird situation that I would think of. Buying that kind of light and not knowing how to best use it would be like a waste of money or a very quick learning experience if I did something like that. Yeah. So,
I've been guilty in the past of jumping into a hobby, not
oh
like
yeah,
dipping the toe, but going head first. And so I wanted to get if I could afford it, everybody's what is expensive to them is relative. So certain hobbies are like real cheap. Like if you're a grown adult and you're wanting to get into like, uh, not to say in general it's cheap, but like you could fish relatively inexpensively. There's lots of jigs, lures, and fishing poles out there. You could get into it for probably under $100 and go catch fish, especially if you know what you're doing. And you don't need a boat or whatever. You could fish from the shore or a pier or whatever. Um, so it certain places you can actually get a lot more for your money, like in cars or other things. But in growing, I do think going to your point of you moved and you're still adjusting to dial it in. Have you acquired any new gear in terms of environmental regulation, like heater, extra exhaust, or any way to adjust or change the environment, humidity, what have you, since you moved, or are you just running all the old gear from the last place?
no, I did. I had to buy. So when the heat came on, it's when it got really dry, like stupid dry in the place I'm at now. So I got a humidifier, and it's on the third floor, so it sucks. There's no water up there, and I learned quickly that I have to keep filling it up, and I couldn't keep up pretty much, or I didn't because I'm a lazy fuck. So yeah, that's what happened like at the very beginning. Then so I like stopped over the summer because it's way too hot. I didn't get an AC. And then so when I started up again, I realized that the batteries crapped out in my hydrometer or whatever. I had one of those little temperature humidity sensor things. I had a sensor for outside and inside. I had it all going good and I could see everything. And then the batteries crapped out and that died. So I had to get another one of those. But in reality, I probably need all of it. I need a humidifier, a dehumidifier, an air conditioning unit, and maybe even a small heater in that space. And I don't have all that shit. So still, I
If you
grew
can
plants
seal
there.
it, if it's possible for you to seal the space, you can get away with, usually you need a dehumidifier,
Smaller things, yeah.
but you don't need a humidifier
You're
usually.
probably right. And I thought that would help, like if I packed it out with a lot of plants and a lot of dirt, and it was wet all
Yeah,
the time. Right, right, yeah, that would work. Should work.
It
exactly.
should, but
But
some places get super
yeah,
fucking dry,
dude,
man. We
it
get the
is a
Santa Ana winds or
yeah.
Arizona. It's just like you're gonna need a decent
Well,
humidifier
either
in
that
some
or
situations.
I'd have to be in there, like still get up there maybe every other day or every day or more. But then again, yeah, that could be done. But I've just been slacking to be honest. And
And you need
um,
automation. You need
right,
automation.
and then Yeah, I'm fucked up. But
They make these rain birds or whatever. It's like $20 and you can plug in a humidifier to it and it has a probe and it'll just turn itself off at a certain, or even a lot of the
right,
humidifiers and
the one
stuff.
that I had, yeah, the one I have turns off at a certain level too. But it's just it was
You still gotta
constant. I would
you
fill up
gotta
a
still keep
5 gallon.
filling it. You need
Yeah, fill.
a bigger
Yeah,
tank on it.
yeah, that's another thing I could figure out how to get water up there and just have it like on a float switch or something. Because yeah, it went through tons of water, dude. And
Got to make it easy on yourself for sure, because
well,
filling it up
yeah,
all the time is a pain in the ass. Even just moving a
yeah,
few gallons, I just filling
right,
up my I sound like such a lazy ass, but like filling up my three earth boxes, just like the way that they're positioned, like I'm just using a straight up like plastic gallon jug and a funnel.
right.
Uh, and in the front one, I don't even need the funnel. I can just, hit that hole. It's big enough. But the back two, I have a little funnel to pour them into, but I'm like reaching across the front ones. I'm like getting a little bit of a shoulder workout there with I think a gallon's like 8 pounds. So like reach it out. I got a little bit of a fucked up back, a foot and
Yeah,
maybe a little less than a foot, and then pouring it over. Thankfully, as you pour, it gets lighter and lighter, and you can adjust your position or support with the other hand or whatever, and get yourself up in there and make sure that the plants are still getting the water they need. But
yeah. And with my humidifier, I was putting it through a filter first, so that was like another extra step I was trying to do, and I basically did. I didn't put no regular tap water in there, but yeah, it's just yeah, I had a much better, more comfortable position in where I was before. So, but yeah,
it's tough to adjust sometimes when you move. Are you comfortable with saying where you used to be now that you're
yeah, it
not
was
there
on Long
anymore?
Island. Long Island was perfect because, and they grow grapes on Long Island. So I would imagine that, yeah, I fucked up because I could be on Long Island right now growing plants legally without fear. And here I am, and here I
You're
am.
just a
But
rebel with the cause. You're like, you know what,
I
fuck it. I'm
guess
gonna keep going to the place where it's not
where it's
allowed
illegal
to
and make it
happen.
happen. But yeah, and yeah, the new, I don't know if it's the mayor or the governor, some chick, and that's the new Pennsylvania head. Is like, no, we're not going to do recreational. And they're like, well, what if everybody wants it? And she's like, no, we're not going to do that. Yeah, I'll
It,
find that clip,
I
which
believe
is
it.
ridiculous. Yeah,
It's
but
unfortunate when the politicians don't want to do what the will of the people is, but they end up not sticking around for very long if that's the case.
Well,
yeah,
that's the
well,
thing. It's like then say, well, we don't have to vote for you then, if that's the case.
yeah,
Next election cycle, good luck.
yeah, well, we need new people to vote for. Don't even get me started now because I don't. The orange man is failing left and right in my opinions, and I was,
Well, yeah.
In
The
terms
yeah.
of cannabis, what are your biggest gripes?
Yeah, that I can't grow it without fear right here in my backyard. I mean, that's what I want to do. I want to step out my back door and go to my cannabis plants that are the size of Mendo dopes and take care of them. That's what I want. That's really all I want. And
The
maybe,
American dream.
yeah,
Oh,
more.
so like what you could maybe do in Long Island is what you're saying. You want that?
Or Michigan, or
No, it's far.
California, or Oregon,
Or it's like
or
that's the wound right there. Let me throw salt in and punch my finger through it.
dude, remember that guy? It was like Moon Creek Farms in
Oh, it sounds.
Nevada. His fucking greenhouse grow, how fucking beautiful it was. It was a bunch of big ass Mendo dope ass plants.
Yeah, that
Speaking
was
of
awesome.
beautiful plants, What Up Doe Grow is about to hop in and join us here in just a
Hell
second.
yeah.
And we're gonna get Doctor, which I think might be Dog Doctor.
And I was
The
lying.
doctor.
I want 26 footers, not 6 20-foot plants, really. Yeah. I take that back. I don't want Mendo dope plants. I won't lie.
I'm
I want
actually with you,
like
Tal. I want more
six to
smaller
eight
plants.
footers. Yeah, 6 to 8 footers, but more than
Not
yeah,
much taller than me,
right. That works.
ideally.
And they make that makes great buds, man. Those 10, 8 to 6 to 10 foot. All right, I'll shut up.
So we got What Up Doe Grow joining us. It looks like you're turning your camera to the side there for us so we can get the full screen. It is turned the right way. We got a couple plants here looking nice and green in the scrog. Tented
Hey,
up,
what up,
fans
though?
blowing. How you doing,
What's
What Up
up,
Doe Grow?
guys?
Welcome back. Good to have you.
Good. How you guys
Welcome.
doing?
Doing
Good,
good,
good. Is
man.
that Dr. Liebealone who joined us as well?
Yeah.
Heck
Uh,
yeah. What up, Doctor? I don't know if you've joined us before, but welcome.
Yeah, did I showed you the CO2 extractor one time?
Oh, yeah. Shit, it's been a while. Well, welcome back.
What's up,
I,
Yeah.
Doc?
Hey, what's happening,
we
American
bumped
Win?
into each other on Eagle Show a bunch of times and I just got mixed up.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a good deal today. I got these bags llama manure down the road. I'm still waiting on my 8-year-old cow manure. didn't show up yet, but instead, well, not instead, I'm still going to get that, but I got 8 bags of llama, I mean, 5 bags of llama manure today for $30. I was like, how about four for 25? He's like, no. He goes, I'll give you 5 for 30. I was like, okay. I was like, okay, yeah. So this is what it looks like. It's getting dark now here, but
I was gonna say,
it,
how is llama manure? Have you used it in the past? Does it need
yeah,
to be
I used
composted
it.
first?
Used it last year. This is already composted. There's no pellets. I asked him if there's any, like, like rabbit turds in there. He
Yeah.
says, yeah. He says there's worms in it, but I just opened this bag and dumped this out, and there's no. I don't see any worms, but it's pretty mucky. But and I got this mix here of Pro Mix and Fox Farm that I had in these things, but I want to make a mix of this here, put them in here, and then plant these plants here. I want to get these into it. So I want to get that.
What are those?
That's a this one's a Durban poison.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. This one is the lemon. Guy gave me these. And this one I think is a Tahoe, what it says. So this is
Nice.
like a Tahoe.
Damn,
But
what up, though? That's a frosty ass bud.
so I took a milk jug and made a tea out of some of the llama manure for my other little plants that are in cups that upstairs. My freak show cross and the duck foot and rock solos plants. I want them to get bigger before I transplant them. So I want to give them some of that, give them a little kick, and get them bigger before they get transplanted. Then in here, you can see, well, I got all the holes dug. I'm waiting for the cow manure to come because
Nice, man. It's good
I
prep,
got,
though. Save yourself
I,
time and split it up.
yeah, I'm waiting for the manure to come in. I got crushed oyster shells to put a little bit in there. Probably I got like a 50-pound bag, but I want to get more. I want to put like maybe a cup in each hole with the manure, the crushed oyster shells. But in here,
Doc,
I got
aren't the plants going to get too big, too close right there, though?
well, I grew this stuff last year with a little bit of
Oh,
almond manure. I couldn't really grow. I couldn't really use too much
Were
in the
those all
hole.
seedlings, Doc? Go back
yeah,
into
those are
there.
all seedlings he's got.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those are
sorry.
all.
Where the hell are these going?
These are going to New York. These
All
are going
right.
to my New York farm. I got a big farm up there. But
Hell
these
yeah,
here,
dude.
these here, when I get the manure and everything in the hole here, I still got plenty of CBG seeds.
Sal, you
So I think
fucked up, brother.
I still want to,
Thanks
I
a
want to
lot.
I want to put the seeds and grow them from seed in the holes here when it gets warmer, because then there's no transplanting and two
That's
two
the way to do
weeks
it, dude. Seed to
two
finish.
weeks
Same
of
pot
time,
in
and
the
this way
ground.
they're in the ground, ready to go. They hit that manure, and bam. But
You don't
last year
you don't
they
worry about them
grew up.
re-vegging? That's a little early to be putting them in right now, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I'm not putting them out yet. I got to wait until at least Memorial Day here.
Yep, yep, I'm with you. The same here.
And I'm doing this farm first, and then I'm gonna go to the New York farm and do that. But I'm gonna start with seeds here first. And these are all CBG. And I might put some cups up on the hill. I got the back hill. I might do some cups up there. But I'm gonna do seeds mostly in the grass area because they'll grow better. It won't take 2 weeks to get grip again. You know what I mean?
You're
But
gonna have a lot of work ahead of you, buddy.
and I could do this. It's not. I do this. I did this since 2019. So
No,
I'm
I
a
believe in you. I'm
pro.
just saying that's
I'm a pro.
admirable, man.
This
I'm
is
not doubting you one bit. It's
70 degrees in here, 52% humidity. That ain't too bad. Okay,
that's not bad at all.
I got the HPS 600 here. Now you're saying take the glass off it?
Well,
Yeah.
it could potentially let more stuff through, but it just all depends. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Shit, your operation looks
Well, I
like
got
it's
sunlight.
cranking.
This,
You got a
this
bunch of
gets all
different stuff.
sunlight in the daytime. The sun comes up over there and comes all the way around and goes down the mountain over there
Heck
behind.
yeah.
So I get all sunlight in here. Plus, I got this stuff here, and this LED. Right, this is a 56K, and it's 45 watts. I think that's comparable to like an old 65 watt or something.
Hey man,
So
you're rocking it. I love the mixed light setup. You're saving yourself a bunch of money by just having that natural lighting.
yeah, and what do you call it? This links into one another too, so you can plug the other one in and like do a
Daisy chain.
chain,
Yeah, the old
a
daisy
chain.
chain.
Then I got,
I love that.
and these are all coming up. These are all CBD. They're all coming up from Hokey, CBG actually. See, I also have. I got the old Mars red and blue.
Well, how come you still got floor space without cups on it over there? What
Who's
the hell's going
Hokey? Is
on?
it Lemon
I,
Hoko?
I, I can't afford any more soil to make and cups to make anymore.
Well, dig, you
I'm
got
just
plenty. Wait a
working.
minute. Wait a minute. I seen all that soil out there. Where'd all that soil go that you fucking dug those holes with? Where'd that soil go? Start
It's
pumping
all right
up
on the side there.
cups. Fill them up.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the manure in and then put the soil back on, and and then planting that. Um,
I
with
love this old
yeah,
school. This is like a history museum right here with that blurple on the right.
but this one,
Yeah,
what?
that's a throwback.
Yeah, this is a old. It's a Mars copy. It's the grow and the bloom, red and the blue. And then I got these things here. I got the HLG 240s. Okay. And they got adjustable knob here on it. They got ports for like a phone line or whatever you want to, and switches on it. I
That's pretty
got
decent
these,
light.
Yeah,
I get these LEDs.
I think
I
that
got,
still rock today. No
that'd
I
be
issues.
got
good for
them at
that
the
space
thrift
you were
shop.
just in.
I got two of them for like 250, yeah, brand new at the thrift shop. I got the boxes and everything. I
Wow.
find so much shit at this thrift shop over here. It's unbelievable, man. I'm like, wow, because we're in Vermont, everyone smokes weed here. You know what I mean? It's like fucking, uh,
Nice.
and also I built a light mover for in here because I was gonna do indoor. I got medical license too, so I can do medical, but
Doc,
I got the I got
what do
the
you,
light mover, and then I hooked a rod going to another homemade one that I made with closet door hinges,
hey
so I
Doc,
can. Yeah.
what do you got? A handlebar on your phone for the camera? What is that thing?
Oh, this is the thing to move it up and down. This I
Oh,
put it so
yeah.
I can move it. The
Is it
other
like
way
on
it
a
doesn't.
tripod?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah. This is the handle that you can move it up and down. Yeah, so I got these going. I might put these lights up. I don't know if I need them right now in veg. Also, I got the T5. I got the 2 footers and I got the 4 footers. Like I don't know, 6, 8 bulb
Is that a bag of
T5.
seeds right there?
Yeah, let's
Holy
see.
shit.
Yeah, that's
Just
all
a
a mix
few.
of.
Just
That's all a mix of this stuff here. I don't know if you guys seen the other shows, but this is uh this is stuff that I've been growing for years with the CCB. I grew I grew with them for 3 years, and I got all different stuff. These are all single plants, like this one. This one's a berry, and this one.
they're just like seeded nugs, right?
Yeah, they seeded, so I saved the buds, some
There
of
you
it.
go. Yeah, I
I
got some of
screened
those.
I screened all that. These all came from the bags from this, like pound bag or whatever I grew
Okay, yeah.
on the plant. And I made a bunch of hash. This is a 3 leaf orange right here. I got all different 3 leaves. I got 6 different types of 3 leaf, but I got the paint, I got the berry, I got turpentine, I got, you name it, I just can't name all the strains. I know you guys are busy, but these are all the seeds from that. Some of the seeds. I mean, I got another bucket somewhere with seeds in it from cleaning up. Got
What we
two
need is a
boxes.
helicopter.
You're gonna have seeds behind your ears. You got to put them in like one of those shakers, like they do with the
Yeah,
wildflowers, and just go sprinkling them in the empty
yeah.
flower beds between the roads.
I don't even want to grow my stuff because I don't want to pull males. I did it one year and I had to pull fucking 1,000 males.
That was like
Fucking
Brandon.
2 months.
His
Yeah,
backyard's a cover crop. He's just been pulling males left and right. It's just all
2 months.
cannabis, seeds everywhere.
Two- Every day going out checking them, and then if I see a female, I'll mark it with something, with some kind of marker where I don't have to go back to that one. And I'm just not doing that no more. So the CCB, it was so hard to do anything with them. Every month they were voting on new stuff, and this is crazy. So I went back to the hemp, and I got all feminized. So I don't have to pull males out. So whatever I got growing, like I got now we got green fingers. A couple of his plants came up here, the pawn, something he calls it the pawn. I got 3 of those up coming up, and there's one's coming up here. I think those look like plants. Oh, that's the banana. And I got a couple more of his strains in there. But those I gotta check when they come to flowering to make sure they're not gonna pollinate my crop. I gotta pull males. So that's what I got hanging out
Yeah,
here
even
right
fem, you got to
now.
look for Hermes because it happens.
Yeah, no, I only had one harmony with the hemp last year, and it was the one plant. I walk out the back door over here, okay? I walk out the back and I walk straight to the back, and I went to the same plant at night and looked at it with a flashlight. Okay, every night I go out there and look at the same plant with a flashlight. That's the one that hurt me. Okay, nothing else did, but I caught it right away because I was looking at it all the time.
Why'd you
So
keep looking at that one?
because it was the closest one when I walk out the back, you know what I
Oh, okay.
mean?
Just kind of
And
getting
it was,
a general
and I
check.
just went. It was the one right straight up. I just walked to that one and looked at it. So that's the
Now,
only thing that
Doc,
hurt me. Yeah.
but turn back to the holes that you made. Show us the
Excuse me.
holes in the ground. Yeah, right now.
Oh, these?
Yeah, because the light from the building hits that first row right there.
Oh yeah, but there's nothing in there yet. But I got curtains.
Oh, okay. All right.
I got
Yeah, I
these
guess you
big.
don't
I
have those
made
lights
the.
going either, right? Right at
I
the.
took plastic and I made these curtains that
You got
I
it
could.
covered. There you go.
I
Smart
put
man.
the shower curtain on there, and I could
Awesome.
pull it and close this whole place up.
I knew that might
Well,
be an issue.
at 9 o'clock, I'll shut the lights off because
I
I
was
don't
gonna
want
say
to.
the timers could also just be the cure for that. You just don't let them run too
Yeah,
far past sundown.
yeah, I
But
don't want to. These are coming out anyway, and seeds are going in there. This is gonna be
Yeah,
empty, and
they're going to New York allegedly, hypothetically.
yeah, yeah, and I got no vehicle now too, so I'm like kind of stuck. So hopefully I can
it's
get
got to be
something
a bit of a
by that
nervous
time.
ride.
Well,
But
I want
yeah,
to
all the
give
whole.
a chance to What Up Doe Grow to walk us through his garden. Thank you so much, Doc, for walking us around. It looks like you got a whole lot ahead of you, and I really can't wait for an update. I hope you come back in a few weeks or month.
Oh yeah, yeah, I got all the holes dug all around the place. A couple of greenhouses I got to set up. That one I tipped over because I had to cut the grass under it. That one usually goes here, but I'm waiting for the cow manure to come in through the gate here and get dumped. 4 yards are going to get dumped in that bed, and then 4 yards are going to get dumped here, and
All
then I'm
right.
going to put. And
Well,
then I'm
hey,
going
what
to.
up, though? What are we looking at here in your garden?
Okay,
This is
cool.
Insane OG.
It's looking good. You had a whole bunch going on. I saw you walking around. I had a shared spotlight in the past so we could see both the gardens going on. Um, but
Is
yeah, I
that
just
purple in that little one that you were showing?
What's that?
The one that you pulled down, is that a little purple in there? Why were you like
Which one?
the one on the right? Yeah, I think to the right
Oh,
that
I
you,
was just looking at it. It looks like it's getting a little bleached at the top.
yeah, something at the tip, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, that one, exactly.
It's turning white.
It's not botrytis, right? I hope not.
No.
Okay, all right.
No, it's just turning. It looks like a little white at the tip.
A little
I
white bird
just
bath.
noticed. I think I had to turn my light down a little bit. I got a I got a light on this side
Oh
that's a
yeah,
little.
it's right there. Yep, it's right there.
Yeah,
But no, they're looking good.
Beautiful. You saw, I showed some earlier that were super frosty in
Yeah,
another tent
well,
too.
show us that frosty one. Yeah.
yeah. Those
Get to the frosty stuff, eh?
want the frost.
The internet demands it, don't you know? It doesn't matter if it smokes like garbage. If it looks frosty, Instagram loves it.
These ones.
Yeah, that was the one right there.
Ooh, man, that resin rail. It is attractive. And usually frosty stuff is corresponding with good cannabis. I would say 9 out of 10 times. It's a good sign.
Yeah. You know what this is?
What?
Spartan.
Say again.
Spartan puke.
Oh,
I was
Spartan
just,
Puke.
I was double muted. I couldn't get the fucking mute. I
Uh,
was like, it looks like puke, or it could be Project V, but the frost levels making me think puke, and those
Yeah.
rails.
That's a Spartan puke.
How's it smelling right now?
Oh, it smells good. Ooh. Yeah, she's getting stinky.
Yeah, a lot of people are telling me they're getting pretty good hash results too with them. So if you do any hash work, she's a pretty good hasher, I've heard.
That doesn't surprise me looking at her. I mean, she's dripping with trichomes on the fan leaves. Like the buds are barely getting started and the fans are already coated and just frost railed. Like it's
Yeah.
that's impressive. Beautiful looking plant. And the knowing the genetics with the Donnie Burger on one side and the Vortex F2 on the other, or maybe it's just the F1. I can't even remember what the was it the
It's
F1
the
that you
F1. It's
Oh
the
wow.
F1 Vortex.
Oh
Yeah.
man, this I can't imagine anything but this being fire. Like both parents are such heat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. It's like I said, like I've grown before. Like I grew at the Trichome Forge, we grew like over 20 phenos, and there was like four that were like you could tell they pop out like that. They start frosting up so fast, and those are the ones that that are the keepers for me. But they don't. I haven't found one that's super terpy. I found them they're frosty as hell. They're hashy, but maybe because it's got the frost level, it's just that hashy kind of flavor. But I haven't found a super terpy of the frosty ones. The other ones I've smelled, you know, there's some pretty terpy and stuff, but I'm not picking for terps either. So I always keep those ones.
Yeah, I got her in this big old pot.
Oh, that's cool.
That soil
Yeah.
looks alive.
Oh
Looks like
yeah. There's
that's why
a
that
bunch
plant's
of
ripping.
there's a bunch of worms, everything in there.
That's what she was bred in, man. She's from
Living.
Then the
Buffalo.
one next to her is just looking not quite as happy in terms of not quite the same amount of root
Yeah,
space.
I just put these in here today because I took them out of the other tent. That's just like a little 2 gallon pot.
But you can still get a lot
It's
out of
not
it. Like Brandon
frosty.
shows, those are yeah, looking great. I was just talking more about the bottom like soil surfaces.
Oh yeah. That's a little 2 gallon compared to I think this is like I think 25 gallon.
How would you
Um,
move that if you had to? Would you like, can you lift that thing?
oh, I probably could, but it'd be hard. I have to drag it.
I was gonna say that's a workout, bro. I
Yeah,
considering
it's
like a dolly or something at that point, like one of those little ones you can slide on, put it onto a what's it called, the little wooden crates, and then jack it up and slide it out. My back ain't above that heavy work anymore. I can't handle it.
yeah. These are about done. These are probably be done next week. These are
Got a nice
guava
fade.
girl.
Good name.
Yeah,
Beautiful plant.
I got two of them over here.
Also frosty. I mean, definitely not lacking
Yeah,
trichomes. It's a
they look
modern
good.
cannabis plant growing well.
Yeah, I like how uniform that is if they're two different.
And
right?
that one back
Same thing.
there, the
Just getting started.
sour patch. That one I just put back there. I think she's like a week and a half in the flower.
I like the structure though. It looks like it's gotten a lot of tops, and it might
Yeah, yeah,
be
she
one
looks
that'll push up towards the scrog.
yeah, I took a couple of cuts a week ago because I was liking the way she was, the structure of her.
I was
Yeah.
actually about to literally say, because we were talking about lighting earlier, this is kind of the exact structure I want out of a plant from veg. I want to have like a lot of nice tops, just a pretty even canopy, but densely filled so that it has room to stretch and kind of fill out all these different squares if it were to get that tall. But
Yeah,
beautifully uniform, a lot of different, 5+ finger leaves, and
yeah,
that's just this is kind of what I'm hoping for. My Project V is much like this, maybe a little too dense in the under canopy. If you don't prune it, it'll just grow a million zillion little side shoots. So you got to be a little bit careful with that and just plan accordingly, I guess. I've been taking little snips in there every couple days and just clearing out some of the really scraggly little stuff, but leaving the stuff that's gonna end up like what you've got right here, which is I can't imagine this plant isn't gonna turn into something beautiful with how it's starting off.
she looks nice. I didn't do no topping or nothing to her. She
Wow.
just grew naturally.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Kyle
little
Breeder picked, I think, for
That's really
similar
cool.
stuff in
Yeah.
terms of structure. He would pick for plants that grew like that just naturally because it just makes it so much easier on the grower, I think. You just pop it from a seed.
Just let
Imagine
it
like
go.
going to Doc earlier with all the seeds. Like if you just threw a bunch of these down and you just have a bunch of big, beautiful plants. You don't even have to do shit to them.
yeah. And then back there, that little one is a papaya malasada from 808 Genetics. She's a little runt.
How large is the pot?
She didn't stretch at all. It's in a 3 gal.
Okay. Yeah, I would expect it to get bigger personally.
Yeah,
It could be just a strain if you ran it again, maybe just veg it like it's like a Mac 1 or
Yeah, veg
Purple
big.
Urkel.
yeah. But it's my first time growing all these, except for these ones and the Spartan Puke I grew before. But those two are the first time.
How's
But
the Spartan Puke compared to the first time you grew it? Was it about the
oh
same this frosty the first time around?
no, this one's a lot frostier than last time.
Different seed or did you take a cut?
No, different seed.
Okay. So that goes to
Yeah.
Spartans. You said like out of the however many he
The
grew,
last time
like
I
four of
grew
them
it
were this.
was the first time Spartan sent me those seeds. That was like shoot, almost 2 years ago. The first one they grew, but it wasn't this frosty. But the last time the buds were a lot like fatter.
Hmm.
Do
But I
the
don't.
pukes have like a sedative high at all or like a more balanced high? My wife's not a huge like uplifting sativa kind of high woman. And I'm curious if the Spartan puke is more like hybrid or even indica leaning it, despite kind of having what looks like a thinner leaf on this plant. But I'm curious, the high doesn't always align. I've had really thin leaf stuff that couch locked me, like um, what was it called? Platinum Yeti. So
I
Oh, I'm
didn't.
not
I
sure.
don't find puke to be narcotic to me. But I would still say it. I don't get uppy from it either. So I would say it's right down the middle, like that, like a hybrid.
see, I think she could handle it. I don't think she'll be able to handle the vortex because it's gonna have THCV and shit, and that's like not her bag. But it's totally my bag, and it's nice to have options for both of us. But I'm definitely curious because next time I pop, I'm gonna pop you and Brandon's stuff because I've been hanging out of those seats for what feels like far too long, and the Spartan Puke is definitely high on my list of ones to try.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's one I still pop too. I'm still hunting it too. I still am not, 100% happy with the one that I have, but I like it a lot.
It
But
sounds like you're looking for one that has the resin production that we just saw, but the
yeah,
terpene production of the ones that don't produce the resin like we're seeing.
no, I haven't even found a terpene. I haven't even found one that I'm happy with the terpenes yet.
Okay, that's fair. Because I mean, the thing that the 2020 Mendocino pointed out in the past is it should be better than both parents if you want to like keep something around. And to that standard, it's a really high bar if you're comparing it to
Yeah.
Donnie Burger and Vortex, which are like two of the best strains, both in my top five or top 10. So that's a high ass bar.
Or equally as good with a different,
Mix.
yeah, with something different at least.
Yeah, like a
Yeah,
good
that's what
mix
I
of
would
the
say.
two.
Because
That's nice when you get a
usually,
combo.
yeah, I think that's a valid. That's definitely valid. If you're gonna make seeds and it's not at least as good as what the parents are, why bother? But
If it does provide something new, like if it was like a
right.
strawberry crossed to a banana and you get strawberry banana, even if the strawberry banana is like not as good as the strawberry pure or the banana pure, some people want that little blend, I guess. But I'm with the trying to keep standards really high and make it better every time.
And you know what else? I think maybe certain parents might help inject, like if I don't know, but that cheesecake, some of the Offspring are just like the funkiest cheese that just like stank.
In my
And
opinion, go ahead, Tom. Sorry, I cut you off.
yeah, the cheesecake, the ones that I grew out of, the regular cheesecake never exhibited that, but some of the Offspring definitely have a like crazy pungent cheese funk, and so like a parent might be able to bring out different things that you wouldn't have, that it may not be better, but it's equally good or at least different. Yeah, that's cool. You just made me think about it.
The Purple Punch is an example that makes me think of that because the crosses often were even better than the Purple Punch itself, and it still passed like an insanely nice candy grapey flavor and insane frost, like the level we saw on that Spartan Puke, or even higher, just like insane, like max level frost of trichome production, covering the bud, making it look like it's covered in sugar. Where yeah, some parents generally just breed really well. I think Rasta Jeff has one. Um, an Arise Pheno, King Solomon, he calls it, that he bred with for a long time. And certain he found in lab testing that just made even itself wouldn't test as high as the crosses it made. So it's just like a great parent, which a good, it's nice to have that kind of tool as a breeder. So have you tried any iRegenetics? Genetics? What up, Doe?
Yeah, I grew. What did I grow last of it? It was a skunk. It was a tester, a '90s skunk. It
Oh,
was all
nice.
right. It wasn't too bad.
It's interesting. I hadn't even heard that they were. I mean, obviously they do testing, so if it doesn't meet their expectation or yours, then understandable on that front. Be more disappointing if you paid like high dollar. I know Skunk was going for big, big bucks for a long time, four or five, $600 packs, maybe $1,000 in raffles, and then people would buy it and pop it and grow it and not actually get anything skunky. So disappointing on that front for sure. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
it was skunky. It was just it was like real leafy when it flowered out.
that's fair. That's how I kind of remember a lot of
It did smell good though.
skunk. Even the buds I would get back in the day, you could see, like tell um, by how it was trimmed. It was a leafier plant, and it was just tough to get every little nook and cranny. And when they grew it in the volume that they were for the commercial market back then, it's just interesting. Times change, but some people are like really diehard after the skunk. That's why I'm kind of really excited about flipping this Death Star soon because that's the skunkiest thing I've had in my personal garden in a while, and it's reeking like skunk and veg, even like through my tent and carbon filter. So
Yeah,
abnormal
that
for.
sounds good.
I'm really really excited about it, and the roots on the mother plant, like I've got it in my little oxycloner, and like I've been checking it, and it like started off I was like, oh, it's got roots, and then like I waited a little bit longer, and I was like, I'm gonna get this thing planted, and I'm literally planting it tonight. But when I went to check it right before the show, I just couldn't believe how beautiful, like bursting out both sides, like nice, long, healthy. I'm like, yes. And then I saw another one in the other. I was so distracted by how beautiful that one. I was like distracted, and I saw another one's rooted. So hopefully some of the other ones go. But even then, I'll have more backups on the way. So worry not, folks. If you were, the Death Star list will get going. But I'm gonna pass it back to What Up, Dougro, and you could tell us more about the plants that we're looking at.
These are night owl seeds, autos,
That's cool.
Oh yeah.
banana. What is it? Banana OG times one of them's. Oh, I can't remember the crowd. I just know they both have the banana OG in them.
Are those
But I know
self,
G gets me high as hell, so
are
hopefully
those
that
sip,
makes it good.
those sip pots?
What's that?
What are those pots you got them in? Are those sip pots? Sub-irrigated?
Yeah, there's the AC Infinity.
Yeah, the self-watering.
Yep, self-watering pots.
That's cool, man. How
Yeah.
often you got to water them?
See the roots already coming in through the
Yeah,
sides.
yeah.
That is healthy,
You
dude.
you got
Nice.
is there
That's
water? Is there a
crazy.
water line hooked up to those?
No, you just
What?
fill the bottoms.
Oh, you just fill the bottoms.
Yeah,
Yep.
you just fill it up
It
at the bottom.
wicks. There's wicks
The
that they're
wick.
sitting on top.
Yep.
Uh,
It's clearly working. I
Now, do
mean,
you top water too, or no?
What's that?
Do you top water as well?
No, I haven't, just from the bottom.
So just the very first, like when you obviously you first transplant
Well,
them,
yeah,
you top. Yeah.
when I first start them out,
Okay.
maybe for like about a week or two, and then I'll just start from the bottom after that.
and you have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Like not all your tents are like this. What media is this in? What kind of a soil, or is it like a?
Uh, this is what soil do I have in here?
It's soil, I guess. It's not like a cocoa or a hydro mix.
No, it's peat. This is just some old soil that I re-amended.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah, man.
there you go, Tal. You get you some of those bottom feeders. You got a bunch of water.
Right.
And
It'll keep it moist too. Yeah.
That does help.
I gotta. Yeah. I just gotta get
Better
it
than
off
like
my
the earth
head.
box, which is more sealed up because I don't get as much relative humidity from the gallons of water that I pour in there because it's like a sealed system.
Sealed. Yeah.
problem
So
is you
that
still got to get the water up there, but other than that,
Yeah.
right.
it'd be
That's
good for a few days.
there you go. That's like if you're in a too humid place, you get the earth box. If you're in a
Yeah,
too dry place, you get one of these or one of those auto mats too. I was looking at the auto mats.
yeah, those look cool too.
2020 Mendocino killed it at scale with those. They switched to like a bottom watering in their greenhouses and they like improve their yields and plant health and stuff like that. So I do think that there is,
Really? Why didn't
yeah.
you tell us that before, Jack?
I've mentioned this.
I'm
I've wanted to get
joking.
him on the show. I feel like I need to just reach out. I'm the worst
We
at that.
should. You absolutely should.
Definitely,
Because they're
yeah.
the cool. He's super cool. He's come out in the past. We used to
I
have
met him
the
in Vegas this
Breeders
last
Collective.
year finally, and I was like, man, we've talked so much, and we finally were able to meet, so that was cool.
That is cool, especially because you won the
Yeah.
contest. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
you have a little feather in your cap forever in the fact that you guys released like a cross with a strain that you selected or well grew for a competition and got to share kind of on the Open Source Genetics Alliance front, like share that clone with everybody who competed,
Yeah.
which I think makes just a wonderful story. And I'm glad that you guys got to connect in person. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, he's really, really cool dude. Everybody there. I was able to meet 4 or 5 different people there. So that they had a booth, and so that was really cool. So I think even Carlos was there, which was cool. Hadn't seen him forever.
I'm glad they're still rocking and doing their thing. It's nice to see people hang around the industry for a long time. I
Like,
love
yeah,
seeing that. That's the best thing when you see somebody year after year continuing to put in the work and sticking around and getting known for the stuff that makes it good. Uh, but I'm gonna pass it back to What Up, Dogo. You got even more plants for us to look at. We got more plants in smaller pots in this situation. So I'm wondering maybe these are not autoflowers in this tent here.
No, these are photos. These are I sent one of my buddies. He does Alabrije genetics. He does autoflowers. So I sent him a cut of my Insane OG, and he crossed it to one of his rainbow. What was it?
Some
Oh
sort of
man,
auto though,
can't
a
forget
rainbow
it.
auto.
No, these he crossed it to a photo.
Oh, okay.
It's a rainbow something. Oh man, now I can't think of it. But he crossed it to one of his photos, and then he sent me some seeds to test out for him to run, and then I'm gonna pick out a couple of good clones that lean more to the Insane OG, and then I'm gonna send those back to him, and then he's gonna put those into autoflower. Just like a little project we're working on.
that's cool. Do you have a
Yeah.
space where you can grow outside? You able to get some autoflower, get like a little autoflower patch going?
What's that?
Do you have a space where you can do any outdoor growing?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I got a big garden.
Oh hell yeah. You can
I'm
you can
just
hunt
gonna
your
I'm just gonna hunt these for him, and then send him a couple
Just
cuts that
cuts.
lean more towards the insane OG, and then he's gonna do all the autoflower work because these are all photos.
Also, when he gets back to you, you're just gonna get some seeds, some autoflower seeds.
No, these are all photos, but I'm gonna
Oh,
send him.
those are
I'm gonna
photos, but
send
he's gonna
him.
turn them to auto.
I'm gonna send him the cuts that lean more towards the insane OG, and then he's gonna do the work and make them autoflower.
Yeah, but when he does that, he's gonna hook you up with some of the seeds, right?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, that would be
yep,
cool. Then you get those seeds and you can pop like a whole pack outside, and they stay
yeah,
short. They won't get tall, and you'll be able to just hunt them real quick.
yeah. Oh, the what's it? Tangy Rainbows. That's the name of the cross he did. Insane OG times Tangy Rainbows, number four, F4s.
Nice,
So yeah, they look pretty good.
pretty cool, man.
Let's see what happens. So I gotta hunt those out.
You just gonna flip them quick, keep them in those size pots, or you gonna still pot them up and get them big?
Oh, I'm gonna pot them up. I'll probably put them probably in like 3 gallons.
Okay.
Yeah, flour them out. See what happens. Take some cuts off the ones that look more like the insane OG.
Can you tell right now? Or you still want them to? Still got to get them fly on. You seen any that are really looking, reminding you of the Asane OG?
Not really, not yet. They all look almost the same.
Yeah, they got like little fat leaves too, like fat in the
Yeah,
middle of the fingers. It's kind of,
yeah,
except for that one on the far right. That one's kind of more traditional.
yeah. I don't know. It's my first time hunting seeds, so we'll see what happens.
Awesome, dude. That's
They
fun
look
stuff.
nice.
Yeah,
Unless it's little. I just transplanted them a couple days ago.
they'll take off here in about 3, 4 days probably.
Yeah,
Seems like they want to fill up the roots first, and then they just shoot up after that.
yeah, yeah. They look nice. Hopefully, it come out good.
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure, you're gonna get some good weed out of it at least.
Yeah.
Are these guys flipped yet, or are you just
What's that?
smokers? Are these
I think
getting
these
veg?
were the autos, right?
Yeah, these are autos.
Oh,
The
these
auto
are autos.
farm.
Okay.
Yep.
What light cycle do you like for autoflower?
I do 20 and four.
I found a lot of people get great yields and good
These,
results with
these
that.
were these were on 24 hours. I just put them in here today. So they've been on 24 hours since sprout. And I just put them in this tent today. But I cut the light cycle down to 20 and four. I don't know if I should just put them back on 24 because they were doing great on just 24 hours.
Some will flower. I personally like a little rest cycle for the plant, even if it can flower under 24. Maybe you get a little bit more yield, but I think you're gonna probably benefit the terpene and cannabinoid production with a night
Yeah,
cycle,
yeah,
however short.
these are only like shoot, I think it's only been 3 weeks,
That's nice, man. They're growing well.
almost almost 4 weeks. They grow so fast. Once they take off, man, they get going. And they still got they're probably who knows how big Night Owl's got some good stuff, so I've seen some of his stuff get monsters.
Yeah, Night Owls. Night Owls. Shout out to Night Owl. He's a really good auto breeder. I think he
Yeah,
came, wasn't he used to be part of
Mephistos.
Mephisto? Yeah, yeah.
They have been some of the only ones that I've seen testing up in the 25% range and also having terpenes. And it just, when you smoke it, you're not going to be like, oh, this is an autoflower. You're going to be like, oh, it's some dank.
yeah, yeah. They look
Yeah, and
nice.
he's running GML lights too, so we appreciate him. Thank you.
Night Owls?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
He got like eight or
Really?
nine of them.
Wow.
I'm sure they got a pretty decent operation going. They've been crushing it for a long time. Their shit sells out, dude. Like I see their shit is hard to keep in stock on the seed banks. At least it was when I used to look at it.
Oh yeah, this stuff sells out right away.
I
He
mean, and
just
with good reason. This is not just hype. Like their shit is consistently fucking good, and auto growers are gonna buy more seeds all the time because you get one and done. It's over. You
yeah,
can, but that's only two seeds out of like a 10 in a pack or a five or three or however many you get.
Yeah.
yeah, he just did a photo drop like about a month ago, but I
Really?
didn't. I wish I could have got in on it, but I missed out. Yeah, he released a couple of photos.
That's
Uh,
awesome, man.
what was
That's
it?
cool.
Sour Durban, and
Oh,
then something else. A couple of good ones. Yeah, I wish
Sour
I could
Durban
have
sounds
grabbed
good.
them.
A lot of people don't realize that the auto breeders hang on to photo cuts to
Yeah.
improve and work into their auto work to change flavors, cannabinoid profiles, etc. So it's awesome to hear that they're putting some of that work out there in terms of the photo seeds because they've been crushing it on the autoflower seeds for a while. That's like, I would say, from
Yeah,
what it seems like the commercial end, one of the number one most demanded things at seed banks. It's like fems, autos, fem autos, and regs are like the least desired, it seems, nowadays. But um, people love what they love, and in certain situations, it just makes the most sense to have fem auto, where some situations just regular fems are going to work. And I personally love the regular seeds, but I also grow in some fems alongside them. So it's nice to have lots of tools in the old tool shed. Looks like we got a little veg situation or some seedlings going on here, some cuts.
yeah. There's some cuts. Got some. These I just sprouted. These are root berry from Blue Star Seed Company. Josh Blue. Those are root berry. They're supposed to be like blueberry with some root beer notes, like sassafras.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah,
Root beer was a pretty hype one for a little while. Me and Gene from Mendocino did root beer work, or had a cut or some seeds go around that were pretty desired.
Yep.
That's ready to be planted.
oh yeah, it's getting. He's been in here for a few weeks. Holy shit! Yeah, I need it. Oh yeah, they're getting.
Looks like you got some work ahead of you.
Well, we will let you give your final thoughts and shout outs so you can get gardening over here, Mr. What Up Doe Grow.
Hey, you anyone ever clone peach trees?
I'm not sure
I
what
got. I took some cuts of a peach tree, but I don't. I never. Can you clone these?
I would guess.
Probably.
Most
I would
plants.
say yeah, you could probably could. I think what I'd take some of those more of those leaves off. You don't need all those leaves. I'd leave
Take
maybe
some
half
off.
of what yeah, maybe half of what you have.
Okay.
And then keep changing that water out every maybe day or two.
They're in cubes. I
Oh,
got
they're
them
in
in.
cubes. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I've
there's
seen it work
two
with
of
a
them.
lot of different trees, so
It's
I
just
don't see
gonna
why
take a
not.
lot longer because it's so much more woody. It's just gonna take a lot longer. So just don't give up on it. I think it should work. I haven't done it myself, but I think it should work.
Todd,
Okay, I
okay?
might give it a try.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. What Up Doe Grow? Where can the people find you?
On IG, what up though, grow 313, and that's about it. IG.
Cheers, man. Thank you again for joining us.
Cheers.
I always appreciate you showing the garden. It always uplifts the show and it gives me something to hype for people to stick around and see at the end. And we're getting Tao with the last second garden tour here. Tao, what are we looking at?
Well, this is
Oh,
And
that one
where
of
can the people find
those.
you?
This is one of those chocolate tie by cheesecakes that yeah, she didn't have the happiest life. She's yelling at that. She's pretty much done. I'm gonna let her go for a little while though, but I figured I'd try and show her. But
Looking
yeah,
good,
I'm
man. You know,
yeah, it's
How is she smelling, man?
she has a stank, dude.
Oh
It's
man.
not chocolate.
stick
I
some
can't
in a
really
shoebox
place
and
it.
leave it somewhere and let it cure for like a year.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
all
gonna
right.
do, yeah. But
It
But
takes
Tao,
a while for
where can
that.
the people find you? Because we're doing our
I'm the
final thoughts
American
and shout
one.
outs.
I'm the American one on YouTube and the American one _. Chris_18 on the IG. And yeah, keep growing, everybody.
Great to have you. Normally, I save Tao for last, but that impromptu garden tour got me. So I'm going to say last and certainly not least of our panelists this evening, Spartan Grown.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, panel. Thank you, everyone in the audience, either listening in later or live, the live action in the YouTube chat. It's getting to be where I'm getting absorbed into the shows and I can't keep up with the YouTube chat. So I'm sorry if I missed something in there. But much love to everyone out there and keep growing, everybody.
Y'all did so good with the shout outs. I'm just gonna let y'all know where to find me. Jack Greenstock on Instagram, Jack_Greenstock on the X, and 50strains.com for, well, actually don't really have anything available right now. I'm sold out of books, and the only people that will be getting anything on there is Open Source Genetics Alliance, and only purchase if you receive a link. And so we'll just go with that moving forward. But cheers to everybody for showing up. Appreciate y'all, and catch you next week. Keep on growing, grow is love, and yeah, do something nice.
Peace out, everyone.